Welcome back to the deep dive. You hand us the sources, we dig into them, and we give you that actionable insight. Today we're looking at something pretty cool. Looks almost like science fiction, really. Electric hydrofoiling, or eFoiling.
Oh yeah, it's definitely one of the most eye-catching water sports to come along in ages. You know, that image of someone just silently gliding, hovering above the water, no wake.
Totally. It looks amazing. And I think the first thing everyone asks is, wow, okay, but how hard is that? Looks tricky.
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It looks like it needs incredible balance, maybe core strength, all that.
Mm.
But the sources you share, I mean, these are from folks who've trained hundreds of students. They basically all say the same thing, surprisingly,
Which is?
that for like 99% of people, e-foiling is not hard. Much easier than it looks.
Okay, see, that's what we need to get into, because that clashes with the visual, right? So our mission today is to figure out why it's supposedly not hard. What's the secret? Is it the gear, the teaching? What makes it click so fast for beginners?
It really comes down to the setup. The sources make it clear it's less about you being a super athlete and much more about having the right equipment from the start.
Right. And the core claim, which honestly sounds a bit wild, is that with the right gear, a total beginner can be flying, properly up on the foil, hovering in just 1 to 2 hours.
Yeah, 1 to 2 hours.
Seriously, does flying mean like a quick up and down or actual sustained riding?
No, good question. The sources mean stable, controlled flight. You know, riding along properly, standing up, not just wobbling for a second.
Yeah.
And when you think about other water sports, well, that time frame is pretty revolutionary.
Okay, give us that comparison. How does it stack up against learning, say, windsurfing or kitesurfing?
Well, think about windsurfing or kiting. You're totally at the mercy of the wind, right? Learning just manage the sail or control the kite. That can take ages, days, weekends even, before you're reliably standing on the board.
Yeah, you're juggling the board, your balance, and this unpredictable power source, the wind, the kite.
Exactly. With eFoiling, it's way simpler. You basically just manage the board. The power is electric, it's smooth, and you control it instantly with a little handheld remote.
So you take out that whole variable of wind or waves dictating your ride, at least initially.
Totally. The sources kept mentioning this idea of achieving coolness, like staying loose, finding the balance almost intuitively. It's not about brute force. Once you relax, the tech kind of helps you out. It almost functions by itself, as one source put it.
Huh. So the mental game is maybe bigger than the physical one? Don't tense up, trust the gear.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right.
Which leads us to what gear, specifically. The sources insist the difficulty, or lack of it, really hinges on the equipment setup, not so much your natural talent.
Okay, let's break that down. You mentioned 3 key things: board size, wing size, and propulsion.
Yep, those are the big 3 that determine how easy or hard your first experience will be.
All right, let's start with the board. Board volume, stability. The basic physics says bigger volume, more stable. Like a bigger boat, it's harder to tip. How does that play out with eFoils?
It's exactly that. Volume is measured in liters, and more liters equals more buoyancy, more stability. Especially when you're starting from zero, just trying to stand up. And the industry is actually smart about this. They've created different categories.
Like what? What's the easiest possible starting point?
Okay, at the super easy end, you have what some sources called an eFoil scooter. These things can be huge, like 230 liters or even more.
Whoa, 230 liters. That sounds massive for a board.
It is. They often have really short masts, too, so you physically can't fly too high and have a big wipeout early on. Some even have handlebars, like a scooter. Think of models like the Hyperfly. The sources basically say these need zero training to just get going on the water surface. Max stability.
Okay, so that's pure stability focus. What's the next step down?
Then you get inflatable boards. These are often around 150 liters. They're still really stable, very hard to tip over. The source, use the term kipcycle, resist tipping. You see these a lot in eFoil schools. The Airfly was mentioned as an example.
Still pretty big, but maybe a bit more board-like.
Yeah, exactly. Then for someone progressing, or maybe a confident beginner, you have the all-rounder boards. These are typically around the 100-liter mark. This is kind of the classic size people aim for eventually.
And then for the experts.
Then you get down to the small sport boards. We're talking 70 liters, 50 liters, even down to 40. These are tiny, super agile for tricks and aggressive riding. Definitely not for learning.
That difference in volume from 230 down to 40, that must make a huge difference in, like, just carrying the thing, storing it, cost too, I imagine.
Oh, absolutely. The smaller boards are lighter, easier to handle out of the water for sure. But here's a clever trick the sources mentioned for learners: the e-tube system.
Ah, right, like training wheels for an eFoil.
Kinda, yeah. It's basically an inflatable ring or tube that wraps around the sides of a regular board. So say you bought a 100-liter all-rounder board. You can clip on this E-tube, and suddenly it behaves like it has maybe 160 liters of volume.
Ah, so it artificially boosts the stability just for those first few attempts, makes it much harder to fall off sideways when you're trying to stand.
Exactly. It gets you over that initial hurdle of just getting upright. Once you're comfortable, you just take the tube off, and you're riding your normal 100-liter board. It's a really smart way to bridge the gap.
Very clever. Okay, so that's the board sorted. Big volume, maybe an E-tube to start. What about the wing? That's the bit doing the actual flying, right?
Yep, the hydrofoil wing under the water. And the rule is similar. Bigger wing means more lift, which makes riding easier, especially at lower speeds.
So what size are we talking for beginners? What do the schools use?
The gold standard for training, according to the sources, is the 2000er wing. That means the front wing has a surface area of around 2,000 square centimeters.
2,000. That sounds like a lot of surface area underwater.
It is, and that's the point. A big wing like that generates lift really easily, even when you're not going very fast. So as a beginner, you don't need to gun the throttle and hope for the best. You can ease into it gently.
Right, less intimidating. Easier to control the takeoff.
Precisely. And this combo, the big 2000er wing, maybe with that E-tube on the board, that's what lets people get up and flying in just a few minutes. Literally.
Okay, that connects back to the minutes claim. And the sources even said without the tube, just with the big wing, people can often fly while kneeling within like 20 minutes.
Yeah, kneeling flight is often the first step. You get the feel for the foil lifting you, but you're lower down, more stable. It builds confidence really fast. If you went straight for a smaller, sportier wing, say 1,000 square centimeters, you'd need way more speed to get lift. Makes everything twitchier, harder to learn.
Got it. Big board, big wing. Now the third piece, propulsion. You mentioned jet drive versus propeller. Why does that matter, especially for safety?
Okay, yeah, this is actually a really important one. Early eFoils, and you still see them on some cheaper or high-performance models, used an exposed propeller, like a small boat motor prop.
Which spins really fast, under the water, near your feet.
Exactly. Now, the risk might be statistically low, but it's still a spinning blade. The sources did acknowledge accidents, especially if you fall awkwardly or in shallow water. Not ideal for learning or families. Makes sense. So the alternative is the jet drive? Right. The modern standard, especially for schools and beginners, is the jet drive.
How does that work? It still pushes water, but differently.
Yeah, think of it like a jet ski, but tiny. The spinning part, the impeller, is hidden inside a housing, inside the mast assembly usually. It sucks water in and shoots it out the back. There are no exposed blades. Nothing for fingers or toes to accidentally hit. It's just inherently safer.
Okay, but what about performance? Usually jets are seen as maybe a bit less efficient than props. Has that changed?
It really has, especially at this scale. With modern battery tech and efficient impeller designs, the performance difference between a good jet drive and a propeller on an eFoil is now minimal, almost negligible for most riders, especially learners. You get basically the same thrust and responsiveness, but without that physical risk. So the sources were pretty clear. For a beginner, a jet drive is strongly recommended. Safety first.
All right, so let's pull this all together for someone listening who's thinking, okay, maybe I could do this. What's the checklist for making eFoiling easy?
It's pretty straightforward based on the sources. You want maximum stability and safety to start. So that means, 1, get the largest volume board you can handle, or use that E-tube system on something like a 100-liter board. 2, make sure it's paired with a large front wing, like that 2000er wing, for easy lift. And 3, absolutely go for a jet drive system for safety.
That combination is basically the easy mode setup.
Pretty much, yeah. It takes the fear factor down and lets you focus on just feeling the balance in the glide. That's how you get to that 1 to 2 hour flying time.
And it's not just about the physical stuff, right? The sources mention knowledge, too.
Right. Even if you can't get a formal lesson, watching instructional videos, understanding the basics before you get on the water, that helps immensely. It's about building that coolness, avoiding tension, knowing what to expect.
Trust the process. Trust the gear. Don't fight it.
Exactly. Because the effort to learn, when set up correctly, is surprisingly low, especially compared to the payoff.
And what is that payoff? What makes people hooked?
It's that feeling. The sources kept coming back to it. That feeling of schweben, it means like gliding, hovering, floating. It's silent. It feels almost weightless. You're just cruising above the water. That unique sensation, that's what gets people. It makes that small learning investment totally worth it.
That does sound incredible. And it makes you think, if this seemingly complex, futuristic skill, gliding over water, can now be learned in an afternoon because the equipment and the knowledge have cracked the code. Well, what's next? What other complex skill that seems impossible today might get broken down the same way tomorrow by clever design and accessible knowledge? What's the next kind of flying we might all be trying?
Huh. That's a great question to leave people with. If we can democratize this kind of experience in just a couple of hours.
Mm.
Yeah, what's next?
Food for thought. Well, thank you for digging into those sources with us. Hopefully this inspires some of you listening to maybe give eFoiling a try.
Hope so. It sounds amazing.
Definitely. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.